available. Yeah, let's get that recording. Okay, we are recording. And this will be available later once we have the recording already. That will go onto our YouTube channel and we can talk more about how to access that. But let me go ahead and do introductions. Welcome to today's live webinar, Introduction to Microsoft Excel 2016, Part 1. We are doing a Part 2 as well. That will come next week. So it's kind of a series. My name is Rebecca Van Dusen. I'm a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. You've probably seen me assisting Susan with these webinars as well as teaching. I know last month I taught a couple. And I just like to help overall, and I work at the information desk on the second floor, so you might see me there if you're in the library. Now, before I introduce our technology librarian, Susan Winkler, I'd like to mention that we are open to the public. But you can always give us a call or chat with us online, or even send us an email at librarian@champaign.org. And we can help answer questions that way too if you don't want to come in. And we are still offering our curbside service. So if you want to pick up your holds that way, we can do that as well. You'll just check our website to make an appointment for that. And we are still offering Book a Librarian service virtually. So if you need like a one-on-one help with a question you might have, you can visit our website, champaign.org/bookalibrarian to fill out the request form. And then a staff member will get into contact with you and we will meet. So let's go ahead and go over the Zoom features as well. So if you hover your mouse over near the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see some icons. One of the main icons looks like a chat bubble. And if you click on that, that's going to let you chat with us. So while Susan's teaching the webinar, I'm going to be in the background helping answer questions, helping pose questions to Susan. And we can do that either by the chat, or there's also the raise hand option. So if you click the raise hand button, that will let you tell me that you want to speak your question rather than typing it out in the chat. I know sometimes questions get kind of lengthy and it's harder to type them out. So feel free to use that raise hand button if you have a lengthier question. And then feel free at any point in the webinar to ask any question. We're happy to go over something again. If you want me to relay something to Susan and she can show it again, we can definitely do that. So don't hesitate. And I think I covered everything.
About live transcripts.
Oh, yes. We also do have live transcripts going. So you'll probably see at the bottom of your screen, it's kind of giving a transcript of everything I'm saying. If you want to turn that on or off, you just click that little CC button, and that will let you get into the transcript settings where you can turn them off, or if they're off, you can turn them back on. And of course, like I said before, we'll have them available on our YouTube channel. We have subtitles, so don't worry about that. They'll still be there when we have it on YouTube. Without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our technology librarian, Susan Winkler. How are you today, Susan?
Hello, everyone. I'm great. I am happy to teach about Excel today. Yay!
Yay! Do you want to do I can send out the link for the...
Yeah, let me, actually, I think I've got it. Yes, so we are trying something new today. So I just sent a link to the handout for today's workshop. I know we've had a couple folks who asked if they could have the handout ahead of the workshops. Sometimes we're tweaking them up until the last minute, but for this one, I was able to get it ready to go at least a little bit ahead of time. So if you click on that link there, that should take you to the PowerPoint as a PDF for today, and then you can download it and you can print it out if you want or anything else. And then of course we will have it attached to the follow-up email that we send out after the workshop. Once the video is ready, we'll still have it there as well. So, but if you're interested in having it ahead of time so that you can follow along today, you can look at it there on your computer if you want, and download it if you want. So, okay. So, and we do want feedback on this too. So if you feel like it, our follow-up email will have a spot for feedback where you can tell us whether or not this was useful for you, or you can tell us how you thought the class went, or if you have suggestions for future topics. So
we do have a raised hand, so I
Sure.
can go ahead and allow them to talk. And they should be ready to go whenever. They just have to unmute their microphone.
Yep.
I saw the space light up and go away, but now that I've gotten into chat, I hope I can find out where you are.
Yeah, so Rebecca might be able to help you with that. It depends on if did you happen to click on the link for the PowerPoint in the chat?
Correct.
Okay, so once you've done that, to get us back, usually I think it's in Zoom, we become kind of like a floating head and then you can find us that way. Or if it's not there, down at the bottom, if you're on a Mac or a PC, down at the bottom, there should be a little camera that's white with a blue background. And if you tap on that, that should get you back into Zoom, if you can see that.
Can't find the camera, can see your face. Is that where I want to be, is seeing your face?
Yes.
Okay, that works. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Yeah. So, and since this is our first time trying that, that's great. Thank you for sharing that too. We'll put that in for next time we do this too, so people can get back to seeing us. Because yeah, you do want to see, at the moment you want to see my video, but pretty soon I'll start sharing the PowerPoint, and then we'll do some live demos too.
Now, if you want also, you can just sit back and watch the webinar. You don't have to do it at the same time.
Yes.
Sometimes people will watch the webinar and then they'll wait for the YouTube recording and then go ahead and practice the exercises when they watch the recording. That way they can pause it and then they can do their stuff and then make sure they're not missing anything.
Absolutely. In fact, that's something I recommend to folks too, is if you want to watch everything first, like with the webinar here, and just kind of absorb things, and then you can go back to the YouTube video once we send that follow-up email and watch it again, and then do, pause the videos as you try to do the activities with Excel. So that's something I know a lot of folks will choose to do things that way. So all right, so let me go ahead and start to share my screen, and I'm going to share our PowerPoint. Then I'm going to jump it back to the front here, so ignore all that for a second from our testing. All right, can everyone see Intro to Microsoft Excel Part 1 on the slide here?
Yes, sorry, I was muted. I can see it.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks. Okay, so as Rebecca said, this is part 1. We will have a part 2 next week. And then after that part 2, if people want more, I will have resources for you that you can work at your own pace with on your own time. And we may have a little bit of time at the end next week for some graphs too, if you want. So, but first, we're going to cover data and Excel and getting into it. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about how do you find Microsoft Excel on your individual computer, and the different versions of Excel that are out there. Then we'll talk about the organization and the navigation. We'll get kind of the layout of what Excel looks like and what different things are called. And then we're going to actually go ahead and enter some data. And we're going to learn how to kind of move within the cells in Microsoft Word, or Microsoft Excel, excuse me. We're going to select and edit our data, so we learn how to change it if we need to change it. And then we're going to learn how to move it and copy it, which can be really important if you're doing something like a budget or other things where you need to make sure that you can move from one month to another month and have it all on a certain workbook. And then we're going to talk about formatting data. And this is the part I really like, because I'm a visual person, and you're going to want to make sure that what you're presenting to someone else is meaningful. And some of the ways that you can do that is making it easier to see and to read and extrapolate from quickly. Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. So Microsoft Excel 2016, they now have 2019, that's the newest version, but you may have an older version like 2013 or even further back than that. That's okay. Some of the things that have changed with them over the years, but the basic premise of Microsoft Excel is that it's a spreadsheet software that allows a user to edit, sort, filter, calculate, and visualize data, and including those visual things like charts and graphs after you've gotten your data built. Okay, so that means any kind of data, and we'll talk about what kind of data in just a moment. There's also a version of Microsoft Excel that you can get for free if you have an Outlook account or a Hotmail account. And if you have a Hotmail account or an Outlook account, you can log in and you can get to what's known as Microsoft 365, which has a version of Excel called Excel Online. It's a little bit pared down from the full bells and whistles experience that you get from the desktop version, but it is one that you can access online and you can do as long as you have internet access. Okay, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and learn how to find Microsoft Excel 2016 on a Windows 10 computer, because that's what we're working with as our demo today. And then we're going to select either a blank workbook or a template to begin with our documents. So I'm going to show you how both of those things work and how you can find them both. Okay. And then we're going to go over and talk about the rest of the stuff. I want to stop first to do that here real quick. So I am going to stop sharing that screen. And I'm going to share a new screen that we're going to do here. I wonder if I can share, let's see. I'm going to have to share right from the beginning, aren't I? Okay, well, let me share. Because I'm already in it. I'm not sure if everybody can see this while I do this. Let's see. If I close out of this or minimize it, nope, I think you guys are still going to see it. So I may not be able to show you how to actually get to it. But to get to, let me show you on the slides then. Okay. So I'm going to come back here to this. Okay. Oops. Okay, so when you get to Microsoft Excel for the first time, it's going to open what looks like this on the left-hand side of this slide, where it's going to say you can pick either a blank workbook or a template. And in this case, there's a multitude of templates that you could possibly pick. You could pick something like a billing statement, a sales report, time card, monthly budget, anything with numbers or text or formulas, basically. So I encourage you to take a look at those templates that are out there, and I can even jump into some and then share them with you too, which I may do in just a moment. But I want to show you that once you open a blank workbook, so if we picked this blank workbook here and we opened it, this is the general view we're going to have with a blank workbook. And if you notice, there's columns that are the A through Z, and then it repeats AA, AB, AC, goes on for infinity off in that direction. And then the numbers, which are the rows, go down from 1 all the way up to infinity. Okay, so when you're referring to a cell, for example, here we've got A and 1. This individual cell here is referred to as cell A1. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but I want you to see this. And the other thing you'll see when you jump into a workbook, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. I'm going to go ahead and open a new workbook here. Give me just a moment. Can I get out of? No, I can't get out of that. Okay. Try to do it this way. Trying to jump back and forth between things, and there we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open the blank workbook here and then open that for us to see it. Okay. So now, hopefully, I know, I'm sorry, it's already like a whole bunch of back and forth with sharing. So here we go. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see here is a new workbook right here. If I wanted to do a template, I could go to File. I don't know if do you see File now?
Yes.
And the window's open? Okay. And then you could go to New. And then you could pick from these different templates. So again, my blank workbook is the first option. That's one where you would be entering all of it yourself and organizing it, formatting it, doing all of that stuff. But if you can see here in this drop down, I have a whole bunch of different opportunities to pick from some different templates. Most of them dealing with either time, like a work schedule, or budgets. That's not the only things you can do with Excel, but that is one of the things that Excel is primarily good for, is kind of calculating numbers and stuff so that you don't have to. So, but that gives you kind of an idea of what the templates look like here. So for example, if I was going to pick, like a household monthly budget, I would tap create. and then it would download it, and then I could use this actual expenses breakdown to start with and then enter my own numbers into it. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and go back to the blank workbook. And when we open the blank workbook, I want you to know down here at the bottom left-hand corner where you see that it says sheet 1, that just means that this is the first sheet in your workbook. And you can have as many sheets as you want in a workbook. So the workbook is the overarching umbrella. It's the overarching umbrella file. But all you have to do is tap here on the plus sign, and you can create as many sheets as you want. And then you can move between them by tapping on them. And
It's not showing any, it's not moving your mouse or anything. It's like stuck on the.
Oh, it's not showing the, is it showing anything when I do this?
No, it just looks like frozen.
Oh, that's not good. Okay, well, let me jump back.
It just says sheet 1, so I don't think it's either frozen or it's not like capturing what you're doing.
Okay, down at the bottom where you see that plus sign next to sheet 1, if you were to tap on that, you would get a second sheet. If I stop sharing that,
I was gonna say, I bet if you stop sharing and go back into it, it's
share my screen again. Yeah, that's what we're gonna try here, and share it again. Hopefully now you will see that I have actually created sheet 2, sheet 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Yes.
So those are all the sheets I've created by hitting the plus sign there. To delete them, you can easily delete them too. You can just hit delete on your computer, or you can go back in and delete them by right clicking and saying delete. So I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these. Hopefully you're seeing that happening. At least seeing them go away.
Yes, I see you right clicking and then the menu,
okay.
and then you click and delete.
So we're going to delete all of those. So then when I hit this plus, there we go, sheet 7. I think sheet 7 just showed up. Yes. Okay. So hitting that plus sign gives me more sheets. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that and delete that. So you can name them whatever you want. So say you are doing a yearly budget. You could have sheet 1 be January, sheet 2 could be February, sheet 3 could be March, and so on. Just so you know that you can build many sheets within one workbook. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to move on just a second here to organization, and we'll talk about the different parts of the screen. So what you're seeing right now up here at the very top of our screen is known as the ribbon. And this is true in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the other Microsoft products. And what it is for Excel, it's this green area up here, and then all of these icons that appear here. So if you can see kind of what I'm doing where I'm tracing around it with my mouse. I don't know if you can see my mouse that well at this point.
I see your mouse. Move your mouse.
Did it freeze again?
It's okay. I think it's
just a little slow.
It's having trouble being a little smooth. So maybe.
I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video and see if that makes the connection a little bit better.
I was just going to suggest.
So let me turn off my video here. And I'm going to stop my video just for a second, and we'll see if this makes it go a little better for us. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are you seeing?
I see you moving, but it's kind of jumpy. It's not like the smoothest.
Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll start back up here at the top. Thank you everyone for bearing with us. You know, this is what happens with live demos. We're working it out. So up here in the very top left corner, all the way down to where it says clipboard, across from clipboard over to where it says editing, and goes over to this other little spot over here, the little caret that goes up, all the way up to the X in the top right corner, and all the way across back to the save button over here in the top left. That is your ribbon. Okay. So the ribbon contains, it's at the top of the screen where all of the commands are organized into tabs and icons and groups. And we're going to talk about what those are in just a second. So the tabs are the tabs across here that start with File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, formulas, data, review, and view. Okay, those are all our tabs, and those are part of the ribbon. Okay, we'll talk about what each tab does in just a minute. The groups are related task functions that are organized together. And the name of the group is below the task buttons or icons. So right here, if you're looking at the very far left corner where it says clipboard down here, clipboard is the name of the group, and all of the related tasks that go with clipboard are right here as these little icons that say paste, cut, copy, and format painter. Okay. So the second group here is font, which is just next to clipboard, and includes things like your font style, your font size, bold, italic, underline, borders, and we're going to talk about these in more detail in just a minute too. Fill color and text color and font color. Okay, so these groups also have, this is like, it's almost like your quick menu for these particular functions and things that you can do to your data. If you want to see everything you can do to your data, there's a little dialog box that is down here on the bottom corner, and that is the dialog launcher. Can you see that where I am, Rebecca? Underneath the
Yes.
A with the black line underneath it is a tiny little box called the dialog launcher. When I click on that, I'm hoping you now see where it says format cells.
Yes.
And there's a little pop-up box that comes up.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That little pop-up box that comes up, this allows you to do a bunch of things to your font and your border and alignment and all of this other stuff. So if you can't find what you want to do to it among these icons here, you can go down to the dialog box and go from there. Okay. All right. So each of those icons or task buttons basically has a little graphical representation in most cases, or a graphical representation and a word, like format painter over here has the little paintbrush and then also has the words. And then they all stand for something. When you hover over them, like if I hover over B for bold right now, can you see that that little box pops up that says bold, make your text bold?
Yes.
Are you seeing that? Okay, good. So when you see make your text bold, and do you also see there's a parenthesis and it says Control plus B, end parenthesis?
Yes.
So that is the keyboard shortcut. So if you wanted to make something bold and you typed, you're typing in C2 here, and it's C because the C column is highlighted, and it's 2 because the 2 column is highlighted. I'm hoping you can see that they're just slightly different colors. They're slightly darker.
Yeah, you can see they're slightly, like they're selected.
Okay, yes, those are selected. And then you see the green box around here. The green box around here means that I have selected that specific cell, and I've just typed some data into that cell. Okay, now if I want to make it bold, I will come up here and I will hit the B for bold. And if I do it right on top of it, see that now it's bold. If I come back and I uncheck that box, it's no longer bold. Okay, now if I want to do it with the keyboard shortcut, again, I can use Control and B on my keyboard and make it bold. Okay, so if you don't know what an icon is up here, if you hold your mouse on top of it, if you put your cursor on top of it for a little bit, it'll tell you with that little pop-up what it means. So if I hold over the A with the black line underneath it, I get that that is font color. So it allows me to change the text, the color of my text. Okay. Any questions about icons or groups or the ribbon in general? We're going to cover a few more things on the ribbon here.
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, perfect. So I want to talk about a couple of special places on the ribbon. Up here at the very top, which we just started talking about, the Save button. So this is Control plus S to save your document, save your workbook. Okay. This is your undo or clear. So it's going to undo whatever I just did. So if I'm here and then I go, oops, I didn't mean to do that, I can hit undo and it'll go away. Okay, now you'll also notice that I now have a redo button, which is the one that goes to the right. So undo goes to the left, redo goes to the right. And it's going to tell me when I hover over it, it's going to say redo typing in cell C2. So if I hit that, then yes, it's going to redo exactly what I wanted it to do. Okay, this up here is known as the quick access toolbar. Okay, that's basically a fancy way of saying you can customize what's up here with icons that you might want up there. So if I tap on the little down arrow here, I can customize the quick access toolbar. So I can put some other things in there if I want. Like if I wanted to put spelling, it's going to put that little ABC with a check mark. Can you see that? Did that show up, Rebecca?
Yes, it did.
Where you can see it? Okay, perfect. So now if I ever wanted to check the spelling of a word, I can click on that cell and I can hit check spelling with that little quick icon there, and it'll check my spelling for me. Okay. If I want to take that away, I just come down here and I uncheck that box. Okay. And then it'll go away. So that's the quick access toolbar. Okay. We're going to come down just a little bit further. Beyond the clipboard, down here to this box right here on the far left side underneath clipboard that says D3. Okay, this is the name box. So if you're ever wondering what cell you happen to be in at that very moment, it's going to be in the name box up here. So it says D3, which matches because we're in the column for D and we're in the row 3. Okay, if I come over here, now I'm in R12. So if you don't want to have to look over here and go, okay, that's R, and come all the way down here and then go all the way over to 12, because sometimes I get lost trying to follow the lines of all those cells, I can look up here real quick and see that it says R12 and that's the current cell I'm in. Okay. Okay. Now the other thing I want to say about up here, this right here is the formula bar. Okay. And it's called the formula bar, but whatever you put into your cell will appear here. So if we type, I'm gonna have to spell check myself again. If I type the Champaign Public Library in there, and then I come down here, there's nothing in any of these cells, but when I go to D3, boom, there's where I see the Champaign Public Library. Okay, so I have put that text into the cell D3. Okay, the formula bar allows me to do things like edit my text or put in other things too, and we'll get to those other things in a minute, but I do want you to know that this up here, this space right here, this is the formula bar. Okay, all right. The other thing I want to show up here in the right hand corner, so we're going to move up to the very top right hand corner now, this button here. If you've ever lost your ribbon in Word or Excel or PowerPoint or anything else where all of this goes away, where it's auto hides the ribbon and it looks like this now. Can you see that, Rebecca, where it's disappeared?
Yes.
Okay, so if that ever happens to you where it disappears like that, look for those 3 little dots here and the little square with a arrow that points up. Tap that and then say show tabs and commands, and that'll bring it all back for you. Okay, and the reason most people, sometimes they'll remove that ribbon because they need the extra space on their screen, but I tend to like to have my ribbon there so I can use all these commands and icons and functions and stuff. Okay, to minimize your spreadsheet, you would hit the little minus sign. To make restore down, make it smaller, you can hit the restore down button. And then to X out of it or close it, you would hit this X here. That just turned red. Okay, that's to close out. Okay, just a couple more things about navigation, and then we're good to go, and we'll get into the more fun stuff. Okay, so we talked about sheets down here at the very bottom left-hand corner. Then we have sheet 1, and we can name sheet 1 whatever we want by double-clicking on it, like that. And then we can make a second one, and we can name it. Okay. These right here are the worksheets that you can navigate in between in your whole workbook. Okay. Over on the right-hand side, we have worksheet views. So these are the options of how you want to view your screen, basically. So you have the normal view, which is what we're in now. This is the page layout view, which shows you where your page break is. This is how much stuff fits on one page. This would be a second page. So if you see A through J, that will all fit on one page, portrait style, meaning vertical. And then K through, sure, probably Q would be on a second page. Okay, so that's page view. And then page break view here is going to show you if you've inserted specifically a page break. We haven't done that yet, but you can see up here, this is also where I was saying it goes A, B, A, C, that your columns will keep going, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go back to the normal view. Now, in between J and K, this dotted line that you see, this is gonna tell me where my page is. So remember we said A through J is now one page. So that's what that line means, okay? And we won't discuss printing so much today, but just know that that's what that dotted line is that appeared just there, okay? The other thing I want to show you down in the bottom right-hand corner is the slider bar. And I'm going to go ahead and put some text in here, quite literally. Okay, and down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little minus and a little plus on a little slider. And if you see here, it says 100% right now. If I want to make this so I can see that a little bit better, I can slide it like this. I'm hoping this is sliding for you, Rebecca, is it?
Yes, it is.
Sliding for you? Okay, great. Good. That is what I want to see. Okay, so if I slide it like that, I can see it more closely. I can slide it away from me and it'll get further away. So if you're having trouble getting things to look at where you can actually see them really well, you can always use that slider to zoom in a little bit closer so that you can see it a little better. Okay. Any questions so far?
We're good so far.
Okay, so that is basically going to take us through the first section of the slideshow. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to come up here to the top corner and we're going to talk about how to move between the cells themselves. Okay, so you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to go from one cell to another. So if I'm hitting the down arrow key and the right arrow key, I hope you can follow that green box that's moving up cell to cell.
Yeah, it's showing as you're moving it.
Okay, good. I'm gonna try to move it a little bit slower so it can catch up to me too. So this is me just moving from cell to cell using the arrow keys on my keyboard. If I enter some data and then I want to go directly to the next line, I can use enter, and enter will take you down a column. Okay, like that. If I want to go far away in the same row, I can use tab, and tab will move me across the rows like this. Did everybody see that? And then I can arrow back if I want. And then if I want to go somewhere really far away, then I would use the mouse to go down here. So if I wanted to go to J12 or J14, I would just move my mouse to J14. If I wanted to go to G7, I'd move my mouse to G7. If I want to go to B2, just move to B2. Or, I mean, I could still do it this way, where I'd go all the way down to 14 and then over to J. But that takes a little bit more time to me than just moving my mouse, which can just move all over. Okay, any questions about that, about how to move in between?
I don't see any questions so far, but I'll stop you if anybody wants to see it again.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete what's in there. Don't worry, I'll show you how to delete in a minute. So what type of data do you think you can enter into an Excel spreadsheet? And this is for you to answer in the chat if you'd like. What kind of things have you seen people enter onto an Excel worksheet? You can go ahead and put it in the chat if you have a guess. So we talked about how it could be a budget, and what do you need for a budget? Anybody want to take a guess? In the chat? Okay. No? Okay.
I don't see anything. Oh, someone just wrote numbers.
Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. You need numbers. So Excel can handle numbers. Excel can also handle text, and it can handle formulas. And we're going to talk about formulas next week, so we won't get into formulas too much today, but we are going to talk about text and numbers today, and we're going to play around with those. All right, so when we go to enter data, again, we can click on the cell and then type in the data. It's going to appear up here in the formula bar, and it's going to appear in the actual cell down here. So A1, we've just put some text in A1, and it's going to appear down here. Okay. If your data goes further than your column, as you can see here, so this is my whole column. So up here at the formula bar, you can see I just highlighted my whole column's worth of data, right? But you see down here in A1, it cut off, right? It only went to the second G. Okay, that means it cut off. So with text, if I come down here, see how it now goes into B and C? With A, I can make my column longer so that it can all appear in column A. But when I do this with numbers, like this, let's see if we see how it changed the formatting of it? So we had all these 5s in here, and it's now changed it to the power of 20 because it can't fit all of that in there. If I make this column bigger, then it'll show up all of that. And then we can change the formatting of this number so that it'll appear like this. Okay, and we'll show you how to do that in a minute. But I just want you to know, don't be too concerned if your data goes over your column first, because we can fix that. We can fix that with formatting. Okay, all righty. So if you make a mistake in the cell while you're typing, so if I'm typing the cat in the hat, and let's say I actually said the cat in the, and I didn't type the T right, I can come into it like this, and I can either retype it, change it up here in the formula bar where I can hit delete and type in the T, or I can change it in the actual cell by double clicking in the cell. And now if you can see, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit better for everyone before I do that. So we're going to bring it closer. Okay, I'm hoping this made it bigger so everybody can see it.
Yes.
Okay, so if I tap twice here, do you see my cursor is now sitting between the I and the N in A2? I can move my cursor over and change it in the actual cell itself. Okay, so there's 2 ways you can go in and edit your data if you make a mistake. You can also press escape if you want to jump out of the cell and change your, if you make a mistake in the cell, you can push escape to undo it, or you can do the undo key up here at the top. Okay. Okay. And if you want to delete everything out of it, you can hit the delete key on your keyboard. All right. So we're going to adjust the size of the columns. And I want to do this while we're still close in here by going in between A and B. And let's go ahead and put some text back in there. Okay, so this now has gone further than column A, right? If you want to automatically change column A to be all the way to where the end of your data goes for column A, you can put your cursor between A and B like this, tap twice, and it'll automatically expand column A out so that it reaches as far as it needs to. The same thing is true for your numbers. If you tap on it twice, it'll expand if it needs to for more text or numbers. Okay, so I also wanted to show you that. So when it turns into this icon here, where it's basically a cross that has arrows on the right and left, that is what you can use to make your column size bigger or smaller, and what you can use to make your text, your row bigger or smaller. Okay, questions about that?
I don't see any so far.
Okay, perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to select a range of cells. And I think what I'll do for this is I'm going to switch to some data that I already put together for us to use for our example. So I'm going to stop sharing this particular Excel document, and I'm going to jump out of that one and not save it. I won't save that one. And I'm going to jump into the one that we actually are going to use for the rest of today. Okay, so we are going to pretend that we are planning a picnic. It's getting nice outside. The weather's getting nice outside. It's a good time to get together. You know, maybe not currently, but let's hope by the end of summer, say we're planning this for the end of the summer. And we are going to invite a bunch of people to come, and it's going to be kind of a potluck picnic. So we're having them all bring something and telling us what category it fits into and what the item is going to be. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see our picnic list here, which has the names of some people and their addresses. Oh, it has their first names too. I'll move my. So here's another thing. If you see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a scroll bar, a little slider bar here, like this, that I've just grabbed. When you're moving in between your spreadsheet, you can also move along this way so that you can see more of the columns. If you don't want to change how big the text appears, you can move it like this. Okay, you can also do it on the right-hand side with the scroll bar over here. Okay. Okay. So we have our picnic group here. Now, if I want to select all of this information and move it to, say, a second sheet for myself, I can select a range of cells, and the range is just starting with one cell, that's A1, and going to, say, A10. That would be a range. Starting with A1 and going to, you know, F1 would also be a range. So basically a range is any number of cells that you're putting together into a group. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, I want the range to be A1 through F10. Okay. So you'll notice the top first cell that I highlighted is going to be white. And to know how to highlight them, I've held down my left mouse button and I drag my mouse or my cursor over everything that I want to highlight, that I want to select. Okay. Then I release the left mouse button. This is now all selected, so I can do something with all of this data together. Okay, so it's a very useful technique to copy and move large ranges of data and move large things around. If you want to select your entire worksheet, meaning more than just your picnic schedule, you can use this button up here at the top that comes before A and before 1. So it's got the little half triangle here, and you hit that and it's going to do all of it. So you see how now down here below my icon and as far as I want to scroll, it's all been selected. So that's a nice little shortcut there if you want to select more than just your data. Okay.
We have a raised hand if it's okay to
Sure.
do that. Okay,
Absolutely.
let me go ahead.
You have just moved your screen, so I can now see A1, but before I could not see the entire, I could see all that you selected, but only from D through F. So
yes, yep, absolutely, yep. And that's because I went down here to my scroll bar down here in the bottom right corner and moved it over because I realized that was happening for everyone.
Okay, so would you repeat what was over at A1? That's simply where you depressed your left mouse?
Yes, so to highlight the range of cells that you want to include, and for me, I want to include the first name column, last name, address, phone number, picnic category, and picnic item. What I'm going to start with is the first top cell that I want to include, then hold down my left mouse button and drag it down and over to get all the information I want.
So you're not picking up the word first name, that does not appear.
We are picking up the word first name. So that is in box A1 right here.
Just remains white on my screen where everything else turns gray.
Yes, and that is something Excel does so that you can know where the beginning of your range is and the end of your range is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. So now that everything's highlighted, I can do a bunch of things with it if I want. I can grab it and move it elsewhere. I can move it, you know, I could say, all right, I'm going to copy everything here and move it to the second sheet. So if I copy it, that means it's going to reappear in both places. It's going to appear in both places. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to come up here to the clipboard group and I'm going to hit copy. Now what that does is it puts these little green marching ants around my range. So you can see it goes all the way from A1 to F10. And then I can go to sheet 2. Oh, and that's the last time I did it. Let me delete that out. I'll come over here to J instead. So I'm going to place it at J1 and I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to select to, oops, I got to go back because I actually moved in between there since I did stuff here. So, okay, so sheet 1, we're over here. We're going to select all of our information. We're going to say copy and it's going to copy it. I'm going to go to sheet 2, select J1, and then come up to paste and just go ahead and paste it in there. So when you see that I pasted in here, does everybody see how it's all smooshed together? Excuse me. It did not follow like keeping the columns neat. So again, you can adjust your columns by going in between J and K. Oops. Let me make it bigger, not smaller. So between J and K, grabbing right there, excuse me, and expanding it like that. And you could do that for all of them if you wanted. Okay, you can also do this with columns specifically. So I'm going to hit the escape key to get off the marching ants. Excuse me, goodness. Sorry about that. I'm going to make it a little bit so you can see everything. So if I wanted to select just column D, I can place my cursor at the top of column D on the letter D and then tap once, and it will highlight the whole column, including the phone numbers I already have and everything down below. If I want to do that on a row, same thing. I can just grab it. I'm hoping it caught up with me. Yep, there we go. And then it'll take everything across that row. Okay, so that's another way you can select things. Okay. Now, if we want to, let's say we're going to add a new person to this list. We've got someone else who's going to come to our picnic. So we're going to add them. So I'm going to put them down here and let's go ahead and we're going to add a row where then we can put them in here. The thing about adding rows and columns, so as you're building out your data, if you forget something in the middle, like let's say we forgot the address, well, you can add a column for address. If there's another person coming to our party, we can add a row for that next person. In this case, we could just add them into row 11, or we can be kind of fancy about it and we can say, we're going to click on row 9. What's our current row 9? And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say insert. And it's going to insert a row for me. Did that come through okay? And when you insert a row, it's going to insert above the current row that you've selected. So when I select 7 and I say, let's add a new person and I say insert, it's going to put it above Violet Willis as a new number 7. Okay. To delete, I can do the same thing. I right click and I say delete. Right click and say delete. Okay. But we're actually going to go ahead and add a new person because I think it'll be fun. So we're going to go ahead and say insert. Okay. Does anyone want to give me a name? We're going to need a name and an address and a phone number and a picnic thing that they're going to bring to our picnic.
We do have a raised hand.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to do that now or after.
Yep. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that now.
Okay. Okay, you should be good to go once you unmute your microphone.
I wanted to know when you highlighted the text for up from A10 to F10.
Okay.
It ended at F10. In row 2, there is much more on, you know, the type of cookies and stuff, which, but it goes all the way to H. But
yes.
H wasn't, G and H wasn't in the highlighted format.
Correct. Yes. So what we're talking about is F2, which says chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal cookies, and peanut butter cookies. Very good catch. So what's happening right now with this one is that my cell is not big enough for all of these things to appear, even though they're all in cell F2. Okay, and we're actually gonna do that in just a second, where we're gonna figure out how to make it all stay in F2. Now it's all in F2 as it is now, but it looks like it goes into G and H. And we're gonna make that not true. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna use this button up here that says wrap text within the alignment category. And we're gonna do that in just a few moments, but that's a good catch that you caught that. Yeah. I could also, sorry, go ahead.
The other thing I didn't understand, when you choose that left facing triangle to go to pick up the whole page, when your text is only up to 11, when would you want all that below? I mean, why would you want to?
Yeah, so sometimes if you have a whole lot of information, so far more than we have right here, so say we had a graph down here, we had a pie chart over here, we had a whole bunch of stuff built out on this one sheet that we wanted to transfer instead of just one little piece of data. That is one point where you would want to select all of them. And it's a lot harder to try, when you try to select all of them like this, where you try to highlight it all and go over, it's a lot less exact.
Okay, I see.
So yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
So now, because I was trying to see how to put up my hand and what I missed out, what you said about inserting. This is what you're talking on adding in a line.
Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll do that again too.
Okay.
So when we want to add a new person to our list, we can select our row, and if you click there, you're selecting the entire row all the way across out to infinity. And we're going to right click and we're going to say insert, and that's automatically going to insert a row above the current person, and now they move to 10 and you have a new 9. Okay, so we can put in, Mike. Anybody got a last? Oh, anybody got a last name? We should throw in here. What's that?
Smith.
Smith. Sounds great. Okay, and they live at 409. We were doing library things, so maybe Penn Street. Sure, and then Oops, I gotta go back up here. Oops, we're gonna make it 555. Okay, and what are they bringing? Does anybody want to say what they're bringing?
Plates.
Drinks?
No, well, that's
what I heard.
I said plates.
Plates. Okay. Yep. So okay, that's good. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a great one. Let's do like we call it like plates and silverware.
Yeah.
Paperware, is that a good term for it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so plates and silverware. Yeah, we're gonna need that. Okay, thinking ahead here. Okay, so now we've added our next person in here, right? And so we're gonna have to make this, we can't quite see everybody's street, so we're gonna make our column a little bit wider here by going up to the top and double clicking in there so it shows up there. Okay. And does anybody have any questions about adding a column and adding? So if I wanted to add a column, remember, it's going to go to the right side. So when I click on B here and I click insert, it's going to go to the left. So what was B now moves to C. So if this was the middle initial or something, then we could add it here. Okay. Now to delete it, same idea. You just click up there in the top of the column and then right click and say delete. Okay. And this is with the mouse shortcuts, but you can also do it up here where you hit insert on the insert tab. Okay. So we're just doing it with this instead of that. Okay. All right. Questions about inserting or deleting columns and rows?
We do have a raised hand. Let me go ahead and allow them to talk.
Absolutely.
My chat space isn't working as I wish. Curious, not at what you've already said, but what might the possibilities be? Can we send this to the people who are going to participate? And if so, how would we copy and put that into an email? Also, can we do an alphabetical sort of last names to keep better track?
Yes. So the answer to the question is yes, actually, to all things. In fact, our last thing that we're going to cover today is doing an alphabetical sort by last name. So that it's a little easier for us to check people off when they come to the picnic. And yes, you can send this. You can either send it as an Excel spreadsheet that you just send to people as an attachment. But if they don't have Excel, then it gets a little tricky because they may not be able to open it. So if you wanted to do this, to send it to them and just put it in print in the email, you certainly could. And that's another case where you would highlight and select everything. And then you could go and copy it. And then you could just go to your email, open a new message, and then do Control V as in Victor for the paste shortcut, and it would paste it right into that email for you. You may lose a little bit of the formatting that we're going to do, though, if you do it that way, but you certainly could. I'm hoping that helped answer.
It did, very
Okay,
much
good.
so. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. So, and that's actually perfect because that leads us right into the idea where if you want to move sections or move people. So the original way that you could sort folks by their last name would be to come to Roberta, grab her and her information here. And notice I'm going just through F because I know that oatmeal cookies and peanut butter cookies are part of F. And I'm going to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and cut. So we're cutting, which means we've got the little marching ants around and we're cutting it. So it's like cutting it out of the piece of paper. And then I'm going to bring it down here and I'm going to say paste. So now Roberta is down below. That means she's at the end of the alphabet of alphabetical last names that we see here so far. Then I go, oh, look, there's Violet. And Violet would actually go below because L comes after K. So I could cut Violet and move her down here and then say paste. And then she's moved down there too. So you can see this takes a long time. I mean, it doesn't take so much time. And I'm going to delete these extra rows out here real quick. So now that we've moved them down. So it doesn't take super long time when you only have 11 people. But imagine if you had a big gala where you were going to have 50 to 100 people, right? It would take a lot of effort to sit there and sort them individually like that by cutting and pasting and cutting and pasting. So one of the nice things about Excel is it actually has the ability to perform that sort for you. And we will come to that in just a moment. But I do want you to see that you can also move things. So if I let's grab Gilbert here, Gilbert Gordon. And if I want to move just Gilbert Gordon and all of his pieces, I can cut it and paste it, or I can copy and paste it and then delete the original. Or I have one other option, and this is kind of fun and a little tricky to do, but I can also come down here to the little green box. If you can see that little green box, let me move over a little bit. Do you see this little green box here and the little box that pops up over here?
It's showing.
Okay, the little green box there, if I get my cursor to look like the 4 arrows, across with 4 arrows like this, I can actually take all of Gordon and his pieces and move him somewhere else and let him go. So I'm going to show you that again. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I wanted to zoom in the first time so you could see it a little better, but I could move all of it at once just by making it that particular mouse format and move it over. So here I've moved it over 1 space. Here I can drag it up here and you see it fits because it's got just the same number of columns, and I can put them back there. Okay, so that one's a little bit more advanced than just copying and pasting and cutting and pasting, but it is another way to move data around, okay, that I did want to show today. Okay, so we've done cut and paste and we've done copy and paste data. So we are now up to talking about formatting. Yay! Okay, and I do think this will go till about 3:30. So if you can hang with us, excellent. If you can't, feel free to duck out and then feel free to watch the rest of this on the YouTube video. But our next section is we're going to talk about how to format the data and then how to sort the data. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talking about font. And conveniently enough, we have a whole group dedicated just to the font and what we can do with our font. So we want to distinguish that we have a category across each category across the top, right? So that we know what information we should find in each of the categories. So what do you think we should do to make it stand out? There's a bunch of different things we can do. We can change the font itself right here. So instead of it being Arial, maybe we're gonna pick something like Cooper Black. Sure. Okay. So you see, does everyone see how that changed it? Now this one's kind of hard to tell if you're going to add bold to it, because if I bold it, not a whole lot of difference. So I'm going to pick something where if I add bold to it, it'll actually show up a little bit better. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to go with Century Gothic. So Century Gothic, and we'll make it 16 points, so it's bigger. That also distinguishes it as, you know, our categories, okay? So we have first name, last name, address, phone number, picnic category, and picnic item. Now I'm gonna go ahead and make it bold so that it stands out a little bit more. Okay, so we've got first name, last name, stands out a little bit more, right? So now, and if you notice, every time I'm doing something to it, I'm highlighting and selecting the range of cells that I want to change. So this is another way where selecting a range of cells is going to help you with formatting so that you can change things around and make it more legible. Okay. If I wanted to underline these, I could grab them like this. I could underline them. I could also make them italic. There we go. What do you think? Does that stand out a little bit more?
It looks nice to me.
Okay, I think it stands out a little bit more that way. Any questions about using these here, the font size, bold, italics, and underline? Okay, if not, now's when we're going to get into the fun stuff. So another thing we can do to all of our data is we can put borders around things so that they stand out more. So if, for example, you had a total amount of money that was spent, you could put borders around the total down here and wherever the total landed, okay? You can put borders around the top information, and that's all controlled by this right here, which is your border. It's the little square here that looks like it has four little squares inside a bigger square. And if you tap on the little arrow here, you get a whole lot of different options for what you can do for borders. We can do a top border, a bottom border, a left and a right, all borders. So if I hit all borders, that puts lines on each of these categories. If I do all borders and I do all of my information, it's going to show each cell will have a border around it. Okay. And yes, chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal cookies, and peanut butter cookies, they do have a border there. You just can't see it because we haven't expanded column F. So let's expand column F. So now it goes all the way over there. Okay. Now let's say that I want to fill these in. It's a little, you know, I want it to stand out even more. So I'm going to use this bucket that looks like a paint bucket here to fill the color here, which means I'm going to change the background color of these cells. And I'm going to make them blue. Actually, I'm going to make them a slightly darker blue than that. Make them this blue. Okay. Now I really like that blue, but it's a little harder to read the categories when they're this black color now. So maybe what I'm going to do is change my text color here using the A with the black line underneath it for my font color. And maybe I'll change my font color to white. What do you think? Does that look better? Yeah, maybe, maybe not.
Definitely stands out.
It might look better, it might not. And so now I've done a border with border. I've done a fill color, which colors the background. And then I've done a new text color or new font color. Okay. Now, the next thing I might do is decide, you know, everything's all over here justified to the left. And maybe I want it in the middle. So maybe what I want to do is put everything in the middle so it's a little easier to see. So I'm going to go ahead and select up here. Now I'm in my alignment. So the alignment group controls things like if your text is justified to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom, or in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's change this to if I left justify everything, or if I put it all in the center. Did you see what happened there? Where now it's all aligned, so everything is exactly in the center of each of the categories, like that. Okay. And we have top align, middle align, and bottom align. And that's what happens when it's inside the cell. So if I took Gilbert, I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see this. Hopefully, did that zoom in a little bit? I'm hoping.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so if I'm looking at Gilbert here and I want it to be top align, I hit that. Did everybody see how it just jumped slightly? Because this box is not that big at the moment. So let's make it bigger for a second. Okay, and we're going to concentrate just on A2, which is Gilbert. And I'm going to do middle align, which puts it in the middle. Top align puts it up at the top of the cell. And bottom align puts him down at the bottom of the cell. Okay, does everyone see that? I hope. Okay, now I'm going to close
It was showing up for me.
Okay, I'm going to make my column smaller again. So I double click on it and now it becomes less obvious, but this is the only one where I've done bottom align. If I jump to Lorenzo, watch what happens up here in the alignment group as I start to move through these. Okay, so Gilbert, it's bottom align and center, but his last name is middle aligned and center. Okay. So you can play around with these as you start to work with your data to see what looks the best for what you're presenting and how easy it is to read for people. Okay, so that's alignment. And that's also left, center, and right. So again, if you want to see what the right looks like, let me do that just for our folks here. Okay, and I'm going to do right justified. Okay, so here's what right justified looks like. So now the names are all right justified, but the headings are still centered. Okay, so you can see how that changes. Anyway, I like it centered, so I'm gonna move them back to the center. There we go. Okay, you can also make things vertical if you want. So if I wanted to change first name to be vertical, this little AB on the diagonal up here in the alignment group will make my text, give it an angle so I can do vertical text. Woo, that's fun. Maybe not so useful in this particular instance. So I'll go ahead and put it back. So I'll undo that. But just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. You can also do indentations for things. Won't make a whole lot of difference if we're already in the center. So let me move this and come over here. Excuse me, one moment. So we can move and indent things a little bit more by increasing our indent or decreasing our indent here, decrease and increase. And that just moves it over a little bit within its cell. Now, the other one we talked about that I told you we'd get back to is this wrap text. So wrapping the text is going to be how we're going to treat Roberta's chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal cookies, and peanut butter cookies so that they better align with our column here by wrapping the text. So if I make this smaller again, so it's more like this with everybody else's looking just fine. And then we select this box here, which is F10, Roberta's picnic item. And we come up here to the alignment group. And at the very top, do you see where it says wrap text? I've got it highlighted right now. So it should turn gray. We're going to hit wrap text. Okay. Okay. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Pardon me. All right, so did everyone see that where we took and wrapped the text here for the chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal cookies and peanut butter cookies in F10 by hitting our wrap text box. So if I take that off, you'll see it can't fill up the whole column. And if I don't want to make my column any bigger to accommodate it, I can wrap the text to make row 10 bigger to accommodate it. Okay. Questions about that?
Not so far.
Okay, we're almost to the end here. The next thing I want to do.
Oh wait, hold on. We do have a hand raised. Just
Sure,
happened.
absolutely. I
Let me go
apologize
ahead
for
and-
my cough there.
Oh, you're good. I know it's a lot of talking.
About the cookies again.
Mhm.
The other alignments you were doing earlier had already brought them within without wrapping.
Yes.
We had already kind of fitted them into the same area without doing the wrap. I don't remember which one you used, but
I think I made the column bigger to do it. I think we did this.
I think when you
bigger?
centered it, yeah, there.
Yeah.
They all fitted in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the reasons you might choose to wrap your text instead of increasing the size of your column would be how much you want to be able to fit onto one page.
Okay, yeah.
And
right.
you know, if I go to the print to kind of show you how it looks if we print it now. So if I was to print this right now, the only columns that would fit on the first page are the phone or first, last name, address, and phone number. So some ways that I could take care of this to get more of it to fit on one page, if I made it landscape instead of vertical. So it's portrait now or vertical. If I made it landscape or horizontal by changing the orientation, which I could do down here, or in my original document with orientation. So if I change this to landscape, and you see we get one more category there, right? So you have to pay a little bit of attention to how much room each column takes up if you want something to fit on one page. So because our picnic item in column F goes off the page, we might want to wrap the text instead so that it'd be easier to print. So if I move this in a little bit like that, and then I say, okay, let's go ahead and wrap that text. And do you see that dotted line that shows up?
Right.
That dotted line here between E and F is telling me that that's where my print is going to happen. So right now, I'm not actually able to print even column F on the same page. So let's go ahead and go to page layout. And this is not something that's actually on your handout, but I just want you to see it. If we go up to the tab for page layout and go to orientation, this is where we can change it from portrait, which now if I do portrait, you can see picnic item is here on a second sheet. So here's the first one with that dotted line there. This is the second sheet between G and H.
Okay.
And and D and E is going to be a second page. But if I do it as landscape, I get one more category in there. And then I could mess with margins and other things to kind of make it all fit. Or I might change this to just category because I already know it's a picnic. So maybe I just change that to category, and look, that makes that smaller, a smaller category. I can move this in even more and wrap even more text there with oatmeal cookies. And then I think if I get to my print menu, now it's all on one page.
Okay.
Okay. So I do have to move Roberta down just a little bit so it actually will show up all of them. So now if I go to print, I can see everything all along here. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways. And if it's because you need to print it, then sometimes you have to use that wrap text to make it so that everything will fit.
Okay.
But that is a great question.
I have to say, I also use the print menu quite often, like you were doing, Susan, to kind of give myself a perspective of if it's going to fit on one page, because I could spend so much time creating a spreadsheet and making it perfect. And then when I go to do file print, it's like, well, now I have to go back and do so much more work to get it onto one page. So that's something to think about when you're doing your spreadsheet as well.
Absolutely. And there are many times where I send it to the printer and I'm really surprised that it ends up being 2 pages. And I go, oh no, I have to go back and mess with margins and column sizes and everything else if I want it on 1 page. So yeah, so the print menu is very, being able to use the print preview to show you whether or not you're on 1 page is a very nice way to hand it to someone else where it's just all on 1 page, which is sometimes kind of nice. And you can, there's several things you can play with, and we can go over some of the other stuff you can play with there too, to make it all fit on 1 page. But yeah, and all of that stuff comes down to formatting. No matter what your data is, if you want it all on 1 page, that comes down to how do you format your data so that it's visible and someone can, you know, get the meaning of it quickly, and it also fits in a way that's nice. So, and of course, a lot of that comes down to your personal choices too, your personal decisions about whether you want this to be in white text with a blue background, or maybe you want black text with a yellow background. It just entirely depends. So, one last thing I want to show you with alignment. I'm going to go ahead and what are we missing from our information here?
Emails.
We are missing emails. We could add a column here in G for emails. Excellent. We can do that. What else are we missing overall that we don't yet have in here?
Someone put a heading.
Yes, we don't know why we have this information yet.
Yeah, right.
So I'm going to go ahead and say, and instead of doing a heading using the header footer, I'm just going to go ahead and add one in here. So I'm going to add a row. Does anybody remember how I add a row? And it's going to go above it. So if I tap on the first row over here and highlight the whole thing and right click and say insert, it's going to insert a new row for me. Okay. And now I can add a title. Let's see, what should we call it? Like summer picnic list, perhaps? Okay, so how big do we want our title to be? What do you think? Our first name, last name is 16, so maybe this should be 20, so it stands out a little bit more. But it's all the way over here in column A1. I could grab it and move it to C, which is sort of in the middle, but it's not totally in the middle if it's in C, right? It still kind of goes into D, it's kind of spilling into D, and it's not really centered among all of our columns, right? So there's one other thing I'm going to do, and this is often done for titles. If I highlight that whole first row up until it goes through each of my columns, I can use something called merge and center, which will combine those cells into make one new large cell. So if I merge and center it, now it's one large cell. You move over here. And then I got to make it a little bigger so that it'll actually show up. But now it's one cell. So you see how when I click on picnic item, it's only highlighting the column F. But when I hit summer picnic list, it's highlighting all of these columns, A, B, C, D, E, and F, and row 1. So down here, this is one cell, D9. Up here, this is now one cell, but it covers all columns A through F and row 1. Okay, and that's where we're going to put our title today. All right.
You do have another hand raised.
Okay, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 2 questions. One, you asked what's missing, date, time, and place, and where would you put it?
Yes.
And the other item being, if the last name could be sorted alphabetically, does everything move with the last name?
Yes. Yes. Excellent questions. So time, date, and place. If we were sending this via email, we could put that above in the email, or, you know, we could put it down below, or we could add it to our summer picnic list title, and we could say, you know, August 28, 2021, Hessel Park, perhaps, something like that. And then we could put, you know, we could put the time, like 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., like that.
Okay, that feels better.
So we could do that, or, you know, we could even put it on a second line. So we could hit enter and we could, you know, we could make it wrap the text. So we could wrap the text and pop it down here. You know, we could do whatever we want to make it, or we could even put a second, you know, a second row in here and insert a second row and take our date and time and move them down here and then merge these as well so that it appears like that, and then take it out of here like that. I think that looks a little better. So,
Okay.
and then we could remove our border in there and we could say no borders there. So then there isn't any border between them, like that. Okay. And then to sort. So this is something we're going to cover this more next week too, but I'll go ahead and just introduce the topic. And I'll go ahead and say, if you haven't signed up for next week and you are finding this interesting or finding it worthwhile, please feel free. There are still spaces in next week's part 2 class where we will get into formulas and functions, and we'll get into talking a little bit more about sorting and a little bit more with numbers too. So, okay, so to sort our folks here by their last name, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of our people. Okay, so that's the range I've selected. Then I'm going to come up here to where it says in editing. So that the column, the last column here is editing. And I'm going to go to sort and filter. So this icon for sort and filter. And then I can sort A to Z, or lowest to highest, or Z to A, which is going to be, you know, backwards. Well, not back, but, you know, Z to A as in, you know, Z first, A at the end. Or I can do a custom sort. And in this case, if I sort A to Z right now, it's going to sort by that first column. It's going to default to column A, which for us is actually the first name. And we want to sort by last name. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a custom sort. And when we get to that custom sort, we can pick our column that we want to sort by. And so in this case, we're going to sort by last name. So we're going to pick that middle column and we're going to sort order A to Z. Okay, so I'm going to click OK, and you're going to see it's going to switch. Now, what you asked about, you know, will everything go with it? Only if we've selected all of the cells will everything go with it. So if I had just selected the first names here, and I did sort and filter, custom sort, and then I just did sort by, you know, A to Z. Let's see. And so Microsoft is going to tell me it's found data next to your selection and you haven't selected it, it's not going to be sorted. So then it's going to ask, do you want to expand the selection and actually sort all of it at the same time? Or just that. So if I say continue with the current selection, sort, it's going to sort these in alphabetical order, but the last names, the addresses, phone numbers, categories, and items are all going to stay the same. So I'm going to just undo that there real quick for us. But so that's where you get that issue if you want to make very clear that what you've picked in your range, you want to sort all of it. This also happens if you're you know, when you're deleting rows and columns, you want to make sure that you don't have information in those rows and columns that you don't want to also delete, if that makes sense. So if I had, you know, like 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 here, you know, or whatever, and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to delete column H. That's going to delete all of this. And even if I had something all the way down here, it's going to delete that too all the way down there. So if I just delete the whole column goes away. We get a new H that has nothing in it. So you want to make sure you're grabbing exactly the column you want to delete, and that you want to take all of that information out of it. Same with rows. If you want to delete some information, that's good. We're getting into you know, like moving things up and down, which is a little bit more advanced, and we can cover that next week. Where if, say, let's say we don't actually know, if we don't actually know Violet's address, we still want to make sure when we sort that we select that box so that it still moves with Violet. If we don't, it'll mess with the addresses of everyone else too. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? So next week we'll play with adding a column with how much everything's going to cost, because we're nice. We're going to reimburse everyone for bringing stuff to the picnic, and then we'll get into doing some numbers and formulas with that. I do want to jump back into the PowerPoint for just a second. Is there anything anyone would like me to demo again from our list?
I don't see anything so far.
Okay.
But
So
you know, you can always raise your hand too if you're not able to type in the chat too.
Yes, and I can always go back too. It's still up on my screen, so I can go back to it if needed. So I do want to share the PowerPoint again, because I do want to show a couple of things at the end here. So these are, and this is in the handout that you'll get as a follow-up, as well as if you didn't click or download from the link that we put in chat. We do have some other outside resources that let you learn at your own pace with Excel. Gale Courses offers a bunch of classes. They're not just Excel, but Excel, they have an intro to Excel 2016, a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced class. And those are 6-week classes that you can take. Every 2 weeks they release two lessons, and there is an instructor that's actually teaching the workshop, so you can ask questions in a discussion section too. GCF Learn Free is a website that you can find online that also will walk you through some of the basics of Excel. With a library card, you can also get to our LinkedIn videos about Microsoft Excel, both the essential training and a whole training package and a whole course there. And then I also put in the keyboard shortcuts in case anyone's interested in those keyboard shortcuts, like Control B for getting bold and moving around and everything there too. And then here's my information too, in case you'd like to reach out to me directly. You can also reach out to librarian@champaign.org, as Rebecca said at the beginning. Oops, sorry. And then our other workshops, Intro to Excel Part 2 will be next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And then Rebecca will be teaching Intro to Microsoft PowerPoint Part 1 and 2 in the last 2 weeks of April. And then in May, we'll start our new session, which is going to be our summer session. And we'll have Windows computers, Mac computers, and then file storage, and then a second class of file organization. We've split it into 2 classes now so that we can cover a little bit more in those classes. So, okay. And then again, if you want to reach out and have a book a librarian, you can always do that. We just go to champaign.org/book-a-librarian. And then we also have live chat, and you can reach out to us via email. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here. And then I will go ahead and
we have another hand raised too.
Yep, absolutely.
Let me go ahead and
I'm going to go ahead and put that link back in the chat again.
Just a quick reminder how to get to redo this on our own. We have to go to YouTube, you said, or something?
Yeah. Oh, and I can show you how to. Yep. Let me share my screen, and I'll show you how to get to the YouTube video here too. So I'm going to jump here to Excel. Okay. So here I'm actually going to show you. So this is GCF Learn Free, and this is their Excel Getting Started information. If you're interested in Gale Courses or LinkedIn Learning, you can get to those from our website. You go to champaign.org and then click on eLibrary and then online tools, or you can just type in champaign.org/Gale Courses. And the same thing for LinkedIn Learning, champaign.org/LinkedIn Learning, and that'll bring you to those 2 resources as well. And then if you want to check out our YouTube page where all of these videos will go, we will send a follow-up email to all of you that attended today where you can get in directly to today's video. Yes. But if you want, if you go to champaign.org, hopefully it'll load. We'll give it a second. It did load a second ago. There we go. Right now we have it as a feature over here on the right-hand side of the page. But you can also, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page where we have our social media icons for Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So the one that looks like a little play button will actually take you out to the library's YouTube channel where you can see all of the more recent videos. And if you tap playlists here, then you can get all the different playlists, both our business, tech, career, crafty adults, children's story times, money matters, all sorts of them. If you go down here to tech workshops though, and it's going to start right away, so I'll have to stop it. Okay. Then you can get all of the videos. So this one will be added and it'll be at the top of the list, probably by next week, I'm guessing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
You can also reach YouTube if you go to champaign.org/YouTube and then jump straight into the YouTube channel.
This does us though, right? This is our page.
I thought it jumped straight into YouTube, but maybe I'm wrong. I know I just saw that link that was.
I think that one takes us to the advertisement for it, but you can also get there from here. So you could click. So that's champaign.org/YouTube. And then you'd come down here and you could go with the playlist by topic and pick tech workshops from there.
I think they just did that page recently.
Yes, that is a newer landing page. It is. So if you pick this, which is youtube.com/user/Champaign library, that would get you right into the videos. So we could put that in the chat too if you wanted. It's
okay. Let me put that in there.
youtube.com/user/Champaign library. And that'll get you right to it.
/ user with an S or
user. No
user.
S.
Got it.
No S. And that'll get you there too. Oh yeah, and I wanted to add this in there again for people. So let me see if I can do this. As long as I'm sharing my screen, I'll copy it now. And then put it in the chat. And then a handout. Oops. And again, if you want the handout and you don't want to print it out yourself, you can always contact us. We can print it out for you and you can pick it up curbside if you like. That way you don't have to use your own printer or your own ink. We're happy to do that as well. And we will send that out with the follow-up email and we'll send some practice things that you could do too, some activities that you could try. If you don't have Excel on your own computer, you can always come here to the library when we're open and use one of our computers. We do have Microsoft Excel 2016 on our computers here at the library too. So, other questions? No?
I don't see any more questions.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. I hope you got something out of today's workshop. If you have suggestions, again, please let us know. We always like suggestions and feedback, things that you might like to see us teach in the future, or if you'd like, if you think things were too fast today or there wasn't enough covered or anything else, just let us know.
And we have a feedback form that we'll send out through the email as well. So you'll get that and you can put all that info into that form. Okay, thank you, everybody. You guys have a good Tuesday, and we hope to see you next week.
Sorry, we just got another question. Roles are highlighted. Okay. Thank you. Okay, it's just a comment.
And you can always send us an email after
Yes.
after the webinar too, and we can always respond to that. So if you have a follow-up question, feel free. Don't hesitate to send us something.
Absolutely. You can reach to us either through our individual emails or you can contact the librarian and librarian@champaign.org. They'll send it on to us. If you call the desk, they'll send it on to us too. So
looks like we do have another raised hand. Let me go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here.
I said, I just read my messages and they are all mixed up. It's not meant to be like that. I'm sorry. But I just meant to say thank you.
You're welcome. No problem.
You're very welcome. We're happy to help. We're happy to provide.
Terrible. My God. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're absolutely happy to provide the service. And again, we do also have those book a librarian appointments too. So if you want to meet on something like Zoom and basically go over the stuff we covered today or something else that's tech related, we're more than willing to do that too. So
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Mhm. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, everybody, again.
you.
We hope to see you next week.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.